Oh, Mr. Steptoe. Bob Edwards.
Yes?
We spoke on the phone a few months ago.
I can't be expected to remember every phone call, Mr. Edwards.
Yes, if I could just have a minute. I'd be very interested to hear about your keyhole surgery.
Sadly, I'm busy.
Talking to these people who banished you to Oldham, they hate you.
This is Jean Purdy. She'll be running our lab.
Will she now? Good luck to you both.
With your equipment, we'd be able to access a woman's ovaries in the least invasive way.
Oldham is an extremely good hospital, and there wasn't an appointment in London available.
Amazing how there were appointments for your contemporaries who they did like.
And that is a clip from Joy, and I'm delighted to say been joined by Thomasin McKenzie, one of the stars of the film. Hello, Thomasin, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Mark Kermode, who does the reviews on the show that we do, he said to say to you that he thinks you're brilliant.
Aw.
Okay, so
Thank
I
you,
just
Mark.
needed to say that at the very beginning, otherwise he won't speak to me.
I really appreciate it.
And the podcast will be difficult, apart from that. Introduce us to your movie Joy, which arrives on, so it's in cinemas and arrives on Netflix from
Tomorrow.
Friday. Yes. So whenever people hear this, it'll probably be on Netflix by the time people hear this. So
Great.
introduce us to Joy and introduce us to your character, Jean.
Joy is a film about the three pioneers who invented in vitro fertilization, IVF. Jean Purdy, who I play, Patrick Steptoe, who's played by Bill Nye, and Bob Edwards, who's played by James Norton. Kind of the story, the film is told through the perspective of Jean, who's an unsung hero of IVF. She was written out of the story. Like Bob and Patrick were really wanted her to be acknowledged, but it was the medical and scientific communities who didn't want Jean acknowledged for whatever reason. But
Well, I think we know what the reason is.
yeah, the reason is because she was a woman. So yeah, it's telling her story and also opening just the conversation around IVF and yeah.
And it takes place over 10 years, so it's like 68 to 78.
Yeah, that's right.
So is this the oldest you've played?
Is it the oldest? I think, no, it's not. This year, actually, I played a 45-year-old.
Okay.
And I'm 24.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's written, in fact, Jack Thorne, who co-wrote it with Rachel Mason, has said that it kind of has the structure of a sports story.
Yes.
It's like, so the three of you, you're a team.
Yeah.
So it's all great to start with, and then you have disappointments, and then things happen, and then obviously we know where the story ends up. But you sound like the Three Musketeers together.
Yeah, I think you're right. They did write it in the structure of a sports film in order to, because we know what happens. We know that IVF is successful and that 12 plus million babies have been born as a result of it. But watching the film, Jack and Rachel still wanted people to be on the edge of their seats. So that's where like the sports structure comes in to kind of like keep people like engaged and on the edge of their seats.
Tell us a bit more about Jean Purdy, because you're telling a true life story, but for reasons that you've hinted at, we don't really know this story, and we certainly don't know about Jean.
Jean, it's really, again, part of the point of this film is to share her story. She wasn't someone who was comfortable in the limelight. There are images and a very, very few videos of her where you can see she kind of takes a step back and observes. She was really qualified, and this was a very personal thing for her as well. She had endometriosis and wasn't able to have children of her own. So the dedication and the loyalty she showed to IVF and to the people who are a part of it, to the women in the Ovum Club who gave their bodies for the eventual success of IVF. She stayed very close with all of them. So it was a real honour to be able to play her, and a big responsibility.
And it was interesting that there's a section in the film where you leave the team, you leave the Three Musketeers because you're going to look after your mother, and it kind of all falls apart.
Yeah.
So that even though the honour has gone to Patrick Steptoe and to Robert Edwards, without your character, it kind of didn't work.
Yeah, she played such a key part in the success of IVF. She, for personal reasons, I mean, the writers had to take some made some creative choices. So Jean, the character of Jean's mother, Gladys May, played by the brilliant Joanna Scanlon.
She is great, isn't she?
She's brilliant, and she's so gorgeous in real life. The point of that character was to kind of represent the church and the personal sacrifices that Jean had to make, because she was a very religious individual, and because of that, Jean herself had struggled with the idea of IVF, and knowing that Patrick Steptoe performed abortions. She struggled with that. But at the end of the day, despite those obstacles, she is what brought them back together, because she knew how important this was for so many people.